Candyman, 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 Candyman. Wait, what was that? That slight rustling sound behind you. Was it just the air conditioning or the movement of a vengeful wraith? What is it exactly that's making the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end? It's nothing, you say to yourself, only to feel the cold, sharp steel of a hook running along the naked skin on the back of your neck, tracing a pattern to your throat. You called, I came. Now come with me to paradise. The gravelly voice is the last thing you hear as a hook plunges into your throat. Candyman has struck again and claimed one more curious victim. But hold up, let's pump the brakes and press rewind. So you called out to an ancient ghost refusing to believe it was anything more than an urban legend. Now the hook-handed wraith is after your very soul. How are you going to defeat and survive Candyman? Who or what exactly is Candyman? Like most vengeful wraiths, Candyman's origin tale is a tragic one. Born to a slave who became wealthy mass-producing shoes during the Civil War, Daniel Robitiel was a talented and slightly famous painter who toured the land. One day he was asked to paint a portrait of a wealthy white landowner's daughter, only to commit one of the gravest sins for a black man in America during the turn of the 20th century: falling in love. Pregnant with his child, the father sent a lynch mob after Daniel. Before killing him though, the mob used a rusty blade to saw off his right hand. Then they beat and whipped him before covering him in honey from a local apiary. The frenzied bees swarmed Daniel and stung him to death, but not before he was forced to look at himself in his beloved's fancy mirror. Years later, Daniel would rise again as a vengeful ghost, taking on the name Candyman, as he was termed by local children due to his death by the bees. Now, anybody brave or foolish enough to utter his name 5 times in a mirror and then turn the lights off will meet death at the end of Candyman's hook hand. Alright, we best get strategizing because Candyman is one of the most terrifying villains you've ever encountered. He's also one of the most relatable though, and his death the most tragic. But you better push all that sympathy aside because Candyman will show you none. First, you're gonna have to deal with your mirror situation because unlike most spirits, Candyman needs to use a mirror to access the physical world. Of course, unlike most spirits who can't physically harm people and need to possess a body to do so, Candyman can and absolutely will harm the crap out of you with his meat hook hand. You need blankets, and a lot of them, because you're gonna have to cover up every mirror in your house. With no mirrors to travel through, Candyman is stuck on his side of death and unable to cross. But what if he's already here? How do you deal with Candyman then? Well, your most immediate concern is making sure that your insides stay, on the inside, because Candyman is going to try to ventilate your guts with that meat hook first chance he gets. You can go the prison route and make yourself body armor out of phone books, but Candyman is crazy strong enough to pick you up and fling you across the room with one hand. So you need something a bit more heavy duty. It's time to head down to your local museum or just raid your fantasy nerd friend's house and get your hands on an authentic steel breastplate. Modern body armor is great for bullets, but it doesn't do so well against low-speed impacts from knives and the like. For this, it's time to go old school, literally, because our medieval ancestors definitely knew a thing or two about keeping sharp bits of metal away from their insides. Now that you're somewhat protected from getting hooked to death, you've got another of Candyman's weapons to worry about: bees. Unless you want to go the way of Nicolas Cage in The Wicker Man, you're gonna need to find a way to keep the endangered but lethal buzzy boys from stinging you to death. Wherever he goes, Candyman has access to swarms of bees he can send on unsuspecting victims, not unlike one of BioShock's best plasmid powers. That's thanks to a whole hive of bees that live inside his hollowed-out ribcage, which is a pretty metal place to have a beehive. While having a Big Daddy around right now would be a big help, not to mention the ability to shoot fire or ice at will, you're on your own, and you gotta find a way to protect yourself from those bees. A simple bee suit will do, though you better keep plenty of duct tape on hand because a slash from Candyman's hook hand will open your suit and allow the bees to swarm you to death. Of course, you could just kill Candyman's bees directly by using any number of modern pesticides. What this will do to Candyman himself is largely unknown, but if humans are good at anything, it's definitely driving bees to extinction. Alright, so you got your bee suit, your duct tape, and a 15th century breastplate to protect your gooey bits from getting hooked to death. Now, how do you beat an immortal vengeance-fueled wraith? Well, with Candyman, you actually have 2 choices. You can either find and destroy the handheld mirror given to him as a gift by his beloved, and thus set his spirit free to move on to the afterlife, or you can simply make people forget about Candyman. Candyman is actually, well, kind of a narcissist. He's the kind of guy that shows up at the dinner party and never even asks once about your life. Instead, he's just going on and on all night about his ribcage beehive or how he was murdered for loving a woman of another race. Sheesh, we get it. You had a tragic life and now you carry bees where your internal organs used to exist. But can you even just ask one single question about us? No, Candyman cannot, because Candyman is all about Candyman with a capital C. At some point in his unlife, Candyman grew to love the notoriety and fear that spread through the community he haunted, even going so far as to spur his own pseudo-religion, complete with altars, murals, and devoted faithful. Candyman's love for himself grew to such levels that his very power is now tied to people's fear of him. If not enough people fear Candyman, he's not able to manifest in our world. Don't get it twisted, we're not saying that you have to not fear Candyman. He'll definitely still turn your guts into garters even if you're not afraid of him. You have to get everyone else to not fear him, because only when he fades from the public consciousness, like all of Alec Baldwin's brothers, he will stop existing. Of course, getting people to not be afraid of a 6'5" killer with a hook hand and killer bees for organs is probably not an easy task, so maybe go for the mirror instead. This will require some digging to find where Candyman's remains are buried, but with some good old-fashioned elbow grease and a whole lot of digging, you should find his casket and the mirror that keeps him alive. Then it's as simple as taking a rock to said mirror and goodbye Candyman, because without the mirror of his beloved to hold his soul in this world, Candyman can no longer return to the world of the living as a hook-handed murder bee plasmid power evil wraith. Ready for more U-verses? Check out U versus Freddy Fazbear, or click this other video instead.